I'm Ebony and I'm a mental health nurse and a mentor. But I've just kind of, the last 6 years, I think I've just been on a journey where I've just started to love myself a bit more. And I think you have to kind of go through a dark space to become something great, I think. Because it kind of takes being at the bottom to, you know, push to be better than that. It's almost like I was starting this new chapter and I was kind of, you know, finding myself. But I thought, like, this is great. It's almost like I was becoming a new person. So you have to think, gosh, like I've gone through a dark place and I've come out of it, and literally everything is just way better than how it used to be. We've got so much things going on, and society is just made to distract us from ourselves, basically, which is hard. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. Obviously you can meditate and you can sit there and you can try and take a few deep breaths and not distract yourself, but it is really hard. I guess the older generation, like our parents and our grandparents, obviously they went through a lot when they were growing up, and they don't really know about mental health. They'll probably just cuss you or tell you to fix up, or what's going on with you, or do you know what I mean? Can't really do a patois accent, but going into the gym, what you have to think about is why you're doing it. Like, you're doing it for you. A lot of people in the gym, they don't care. No one's watching you in the gym. Like, when you go into the gym, everyone's focused on whatever they're doing. You know, no one goes into the gym and starts judging people, because everyone's literally going in there and they're focused on themselves. I think that's one thing I love about the gym. There's one book by Tony Robbins which I absolutely love. It's called Unlimited Power. And basically, I think that book helped me a little bit. It's all about the mindset. And how in certain situations, if you change your mindset, you can get the outcome that you want, and just being in a resourceful mindset at all times.
Okay, so today, right, we have another important episode. We're going to touch on mental health today, but we have got an expert with us, joining us today. And before we start, we always, when we touch on these topics, we're going to give a disclaimer. So if anything triggers anyone, any of these discussion triggers you, we're going to put some information in the comments box of services that may be able to help you, or just reach out to us and we'll signpost you in the right direction. So before we go into it, I'm going to let our latest guest introduce herself. Tell us who you are and what's your profession.
So I'm Ebony and I'm a mental health nurse and a mentor.
Thank you. Ebony, thanks for coming up today and entertaining this platform. How's life treating you?
Life is good.
Yeah.
Life is a journey, but it's to be embraced and enjoyed. No matter the ups and downs. So yeah, life's good. Good.
And you know what? You're actively promoting well-being, sharing your journey of self-discovery, and it's always interesting having these discussions as well, because I think this platform, why we've created this platform, is to have upfront and open discussions about topics that people may not always talk about or feel confident in talking about. And we always say that hopefully, even if it's one person listening, it may touch them and help them to start their own journey of self-discovery.
100%.
So before we go into it though, there's always a life before the journey started. And for us to really understand what drives you on a day-to-day, and the reasons why you do what you do, what was life like for you before you started this journey of self-discovery?
Okay, trying to think where to go back to. I'll probably start from so I became a mum when I was 18. So I was quite young. My mum nearly killed me, but yeah. I had my son when I was 18, and I didn't go back into work until I was about 20, 22. And then I started work in the NHS. I was a healthcare assistant. Still had my young son, was still with his dad and everything. And throughout that time when I started as a healthcare assistant, it kind of exposed me to mental health because I didn't really have any experience of it at all. So I was on the ward working with women with all sorts of diagnoses and committed all sorts of crimes. But I was there for 5 years, and during that time I was obviously with their dad and everything. I had another son as well by 2015. But it wasn't until afterwards, like probably until I started uni in 2017, that I kind of looked back on the last few years and realised that I was actually quite depressed.
Yeah.
I knew that I was like experiencing low moods and stuff, but I was like, gosh, I was actually depressed. Like I didn't really have the motivation to do anything. Like people would ask me to come out and I wouldn't really come out, and I'm quite an outgoing person. If I had a day off, I'd literally just want to be in bed and sleep the day away, not eating great, just isolating myself. And yeah, once I'd started uni, and then my sister was like, oh, you know, like you seem like you're being more of yourself. And it wasn't until I looked back and I was like, wow, I was really depressed. And I used to like drink quite a lot as well, just to, I don't even know, probably numb how I was feeling. But I think I'm not really sure of the specific reasons why I was depressed. I think I'm still learning probably why. Probably things to do with my childhood and parenting and things like that. But I've just kind of, the last 6 years, I think I've just been on a journey where I've just started to love myself a bit more. And I think you have to kind of go through a dark space to become something great, I think, because it kind of takes being at the bottom to, you know, push to be better than that. But yeah, in a nutshell, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Because I'm inquisitive, right? So I like to know things, right? And you know, when you first started that journey, when you realized, or probably people around you, you know, spoke and you realized that something was wrong. Yeah. How did you find that first starting that journey of self-discovery? Because sometimes, you know, when you're going through a journey of self-discovery, it's about knowing yourself, and you may find out things about yourself that you probably shut away, right? Or you don't want to face. What was that like?
It felt good because it kind of, I think because I split up with the kid's dad and everything. So that was all that was also like another thing. It's almost like I was starting this new chapter, and I was kind of, you know, finding myself. But I thought, like, this is great. It's almost like I was becoming a new person. Like I was becoming Ebony. And it just felt like, it felt empowering. And I kind of started to write things down and like write letters to myself. I know they talk about like healing your inner child and thinking about how you was as a child, and writing a letter to myself as a child, and, you know, saying, you know, everything's going to be okay, things like that. But it's good. It's a good journey to be on. Yeah. I think it's empowering, because a lot of people, they get stuck in a certain place and in a certain mindset. And some people don't have the strength to actually come out of that. Yeah. So you have to think, gosh, like I've gone through a dark place and I've come out of it, and literally everything is just way better than how it used to be. So the only way is up, really. Yeah.
And you know what struck me as well, because I was watching a podcast, right, Missing Pieces podcast that you was on. Yeah. I think that's the first time I saw, and then we reached out. One of the things you spoke about was high functioning depression. And I listen and watch a lot of podcasts. And there's a footballer, Alex Scott. She used to play for Arsenal female football team. She's now a football pundit. One of the things she spoke about was she's reached the top of her career, right? She's achieved everything, football, right at the top, played for England, then gone into Sky Sports, and she's got everything that she can imagine. But going home alone, the thoughts were coming back.
Yeah.
Right. And she realized that she's functioning, right, really, really functioning. But when she goes home, it's like silence. And you were speaking about a little bit about that. So, you know, for people that are watching or listening, what is high functioning depression?
So I would say high functioning depression is, so obviously you still probably experience some symptoms of depression, but you're still able to go about your day. You're still able to go to work. You're still able to see your friends and your family, still able to do, you know, the normal day-to-day things. But behind all that, you are depressed. It's just you're able to mask it and you're able to distract yourself and just push it to the back of your mind, when really it can be quite damaging, because the more you're just avoiding it, the more you're just not doing that necessary healing work that you need to do.
Yeah.
So anyone, like when I was depressed, I was still going to work. I was still smiling. Hi, you okay? Da, da, da. But when I was at home, I was just like, I'd have a drink. I just want to be in bed, not do anything. Don't want to have a wash. I don't want to do anything. I'll just probably just lie down, do the dinner, whatever, watch TV, and just shut myself away from everybody. But then I was still able to do everything. Whereas people who are probably chronically depressed, you know, they literally, they can't go to work. They can't get out of bed. They don't want to engage with anybody. So yeah, highly functioning depression is just the ability to still do day-to-day things, but just not let it stop you from doing those things. Yeah.
You know, as a professional though, do you think that that is dangerous? Because, you know, before I've started looking into it, the common cliche of when people see depression is someone like in bed, not wanting to do anything, just, you know, really detached from the whole world, really. But you can have someone that's in work, as you said, everyone's smiling, happy and so forth, but you never know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's the dangerous part, because who's going to reach out to really ask you, is everything all right?
Yeah.
Because you're functioning.
Yeah. And then when people do ask you okay? You're like, yeah, fine. Like, so it's just one of those things that you just deal with on your own, unfortunately.
Yeah. Because is it Krebs and Conan? One of their friends, I was watching a documentary and they were talking about one of their friends committed suicide, but they were shocked because they spoke to him, I think, days or hours before they were about to open their shop. Everything was okay. And then they got the phone call that he committed suicide. Yeah. And I think these are the dangerous things especially amongst our community, because we don't often speak to one another.
Unfortunately. It's just, that's the thing with mental health, is you can't really see it unless people talk about it or they disclose it. But a lot of the times you don't really notice.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it. But yeah.
And you see with social media, right? This is another thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Because since COVID, social media has just gone through the roof, basically. It's rife, right? There are a lot of people on social media.
Yeah.
And we go through, like, in this world, there's a lot of distractions, right? You know, we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people as well. But again, there's something that you spoke about is around living in the moment.
Yeah.
But can you truly live in the moment? Because even with me, sometimes I'm constantly working, doing different things. And sometimes when I find that I'm living in the moment, it's a little bit uncomfortable. I'm trying to think of other things to do to keep my mind busy.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about that a lot. So why is it important as well, as a mental health practitioner, for people to live in the moment?
I guess it's a very spiritual way of looking at things. Because like you said, we've got so much things going on and society is just made to distract us from ourselves, basically. So we have social media, we have the TV, we have the junk food, we have the clubs and the music and all these things. And basically all these things are just created to distract us from ourselves, because obviously they say, I saw this thing the other day where it says like Christians call it prayer, and then like spiritual people call it manifestation, and they call it this, but ultimately it's about you creating your reality.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're praying, you're basically just speaking what you want out loud in the hope that it will manifest.
Yeah.
So basically being in the moment is just about not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, just thinking and focusing on now and focusing on you and not worrying, and just, you know, taking in the fresh air, taking in your surroundings, enjoying the people around you, and not worrying about the past, worrying about the future, and just embracing life as it is now.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh, I haven't got this, or I haven't done this yet, or I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So-and-so wants this, or so-and-so wants that. It's just forget all that. Think about you and think about what you want in this moment right now, which is hard. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. Obviously, you can meditate and you can sit there and you can try and take a few deep breaths and not distract yourself. But it is really hard unless you're a monk in the hills of wherever.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to live in the moment all the time? It's pretty much impossible in this day and age, but we can only try and make time to have moments like that, even if it's 10 minutes of the day when you wake up. Just, you know, don't look at your phone, just take 10 minutes to be grateful and take a few deep breaths and just be aware of yourself. Even if it's just a few minutes, like, it can make a difference.
Is that why? Because I'll be honest with you, right? You know, things like affirmations, right? I'm still trying to get my head around how affirmations can help. But having said that, now what you're talking about, is that why affirmations are so important? Because you put out a lot of affirmations as well, and, you know, say positive things about yourself. Is that why you push that as well as, you know, an important tool to help with mental wellness?
Yeah, I think affirmations it's almost kind of training your brain to think in a different way. And ultimately, if you can kind of trick your brain into thinking certain things. I mean, we see it all the time. You know, sometimes you might think of someone, and then 10 minutes later they've called the phone, or you've thought about someone, and then you got a text from you like, oh, I was just thinking about you. Like, all these little things. Sometimes you think, oh, but I just thought about that. Yeah, but maybe because subconsciously you knew it was happening.
Yeah.
But yeah. Affirmations, I think it's about, you know, having a positive mindset and making your mind believe these things. So if you say, you know, I am successful, even though maybe you're not, even if you say these things, it makes you feel good, like, and it probably drive you more to be like, yeah, I want to do this one, because you're saying these things to yourself. You can actually trick your mind to believe it, and it'll just put you in a better state of mind. Yeah. Kind of thing. So, yeah, even if probably you're feeling anxious or something, you probably just sit back and say, oh, I'm peaceful, or I am calm. It can actually calm you down. So it's important to speak to yourself in a certain way. Yeah. I think,
It's that unconscious mind as well, because I suppose, you know, when you go through life and you tell yourself that something bad's going to happen, it always tends to happen because you've kind of like spoke it into existence. Yeah. But another thing that I saw that you speak about, because these are new things that are coming to me, to be fair, right, is having a mental diet. And that's similar to, you know, when some people, they have their social media and they say, do you know what, I'm going to detox off social media. Yeah. Is the mental diet a similar kind of like process?
Yeah, it's basically whatever you surround yourself with. So me, I think probably a few years ago, I was that person who I'd watch Corrie, then after that I'd watch EastEnders, then after that I'd be like, oh, okay, what's coming on at 9 o'clock? Then I'd probably watch a film. Even when I wasn't working, it would be like Jeremy Kyle, then I watched This Morning. And it's like like what I'm actually watching, like
Yeah.
what I'm actually feeding my mind. Like it's all negativity. So now there's probably the odd series I'll watch. Like I don't sit down and watch TV. I might put on the odd film to sit and watch with the kids, but I don't watch TV. Like I'd rather sit down. I don't have a TV in my room or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I'd rather watch something that's either going to benefit me or probably listen to a bit of music. But also social media. A lot of people follow lots of celebrities and things like that. There's probably like one celebrity I follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't really follow like gossip pages and things like that because I'm not interested. Like, why am I interested in what other people are doing? Unless I'd rather follow people who have got something good to say, or they're doing something good, or someone who's artistic, or you know, things like that, or food or something like that.
Yeah.
Because why am I filling my brain with this unnecessary things and scrolling and looking for this, looking for that? What is it doing for me?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like even sometimes I'll put on a program, you know, and it's like lots of like murder or blood and stuff, and I was like, but why am I feeding my brain this negativity kind of thing?
Yeah.
And also when I'm around certain people, I don't like to be around people who complain. I don't like complainers. I mean, fair enough, you can say like, oh, this happened, blah, blah. You know, when you sit around certain people and they're gossiping about people, or they're complaining about this and complaining about that. Like what am I feeding my brain? Do you know what I mean? What else? So social media, TV, music, people. But yeah, obviously the people you surround yourself with, you don't want people around you who bring a lot of drama. You know, there's always people in your life that always got something going on.
Yeah.
Some drama, like just separating yourself from these things that aren't actually benefiting you.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you have to be a bit selfish and be like, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't want people to bring their bad energies on me. Do you know what I mean? Unless we can like genuinely help each other and support each other, then yeah. But your mental diet is very important. I think it's as important as your physical diet.
Yeah.
Because ultimately your mind is in charge, I believe. I also believe if you have a healthy mind, you have a healthy body. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes though, that's a difficult one, you know, when you're going on a journey, right, you're starting to change, right, because you're going on this journey of self-discovery. You're starting to change who you are. You're starting to be a bit positive. People around you are not on that change, right? So sometimes it's difficult. And when we did an episode with one of our, it was a financial advisor, so we was talking about financial literacy, and he spoke about, he says that you're the sum of the 5 people that you're around, the closest 5 people you're around, you're the sum of that person. So it goes back to what you're saying in terms of, you know, when you surround yourself with a group of people that's like, say, less positive, right? You start to adapt that. But once you start leaving, this is where the problem comes, because friends may see that you're changing.
Yeah.
They may see a difference in you. I mean, did you experience any of that when you started your journey?
I think a little bit, but not much, because I think most of the people around me are lovely people and they're very supportive and everything. But there probably is one instance where there was a friend, and I'd say they was that kind of person who was always going through something.
Yeah.
Even though you can give people advice and you can encourage them and you can try and show them the way, but sometimes people haven't got the mindset to do that, and they're just going to be stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a point where you just have to kind of gradually distance yourself, because you find yourself caught up in people's business and you're just like, what is the point in this? Like, it's not helping me. I'm not, I don't want to go down that road. You have to kind of, and it is hard, especially if you have family like that as well. It is hard to kind of separate yourself, but you have to put yourself first at some point and think about you.
And do you know what other things? Because, right, through COVID, right, was the biggest thing that's happened to us, like the whole world, right? Yeah. Mental health went through the roof. Things like mental health, domestic violence and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But, you know, as a professional, what are some of the things that you would pick up on some of the signs that you think somebody's going through it? Because, again, suicide rates as well. And there's always, you know, my worry is, right, sometimes is that getting that phone call from someone to say that such and such has committed suicide. And it's the fact that you haven't picked it up. Because even some of my friends around me, what I would do, and I've done it before, is where, you know, if you see a decline in someone, right, I'm now open to have that conversation with them. And I would say, look, is everything all right? Whereas before I probably wouldn't, you know, I'd probably phone someone else and say, do you know such and such, like what's happening with them? But rather than doing that now, I'll pick up the phone and say, look, is everything all right with you? What are some of the things that you would say you'd pick up on?
That's a hard question, because most of the time you can't really tell, but I guess it's changes in people's behaviour. Are they not going out as much as they used to? Or I guess when you know someone, you know, you'll notice the little changes more. But I guess if they're isolating themselves a bit more, maybe they're indulging more in alcohol or drugs, or they're smoking a bit more. Yeah, I guess maybe just looking for those subtle changes. But it's hard because most people don't want you to know. So they will do whatever they can to try and hide it. So it is quite hard. But I guess if you know someone well enough, then, you know, just look out for the little things. Or like, you know, oh, they didn't do that today, or they seem a bit funny. Like sometimes your instinct, you can tell when you know someone, when something's changed, you know, you're like, So I guess when that happens, just checking in with that person and making sure they're okay, go and see them. Sometimes it's better to go and see somebody instead of on the phone, because we can all sound happy over the phone. But I guess if you go and see that person and, you know, check they're okay and they're living okay and things like that. But yeah, it's hard to tell most of the time. Yeah.
Do you think, right, as a community or even within our culture, do you think that we speak enough?
No, not at all. I think in the Caribbean community, it's almost probably seen as embarrassing, maybe.
Yeah.
Especially with males, I think. And I think it kind of goes back to, I guess, the older generation, like our parents and our grandparents. Because obviously they went through a lot when they were growing up. And they don't really know about mental health.
Yeah.
They'll probably just cuss you or tell you to fix up or what's going on with you, or do you know what I mean? Can't really do a patois accent, but yeah, they'll probably just tell you to fix up, or they'll probably just try and make you sound like you're chatting rubbish, basically.
Yeah.
And just tell you to fix up, and really, you don't really know what's going on. But yeah, I think that's probably where it comes from. And I guess in any culture, people don't want to open up about what's actually going on inside of them, because I think we spend so much time people pleasing and wanting to appear like this person, and instead of just being open about how we're actually feeling inside. Yeah. A lot of people aren't ready for being so honest about themselves.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just too busy trying to be something they're not, I think.
It's interesting you say that as well, because this year, right, is 75 years of Windrush, right? And even leading up to this conversation and what we was talking about, it made me start reflecting on that Windrush generation that came over. They would have went through a lot of things leaving Commonwealth countries such as the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Number one, leaving. Number two, coming over here. And the treatment that they had when they came over. But also as well, because they knew that they were going through it, they're sending messages back home telling everyone it's fine, right? So as you said, it's that embarrassment and that guilt, which back then there would have been no mental health services to even talk to them. And it was interesting when you were saying that, because if you look at probably our parents, we would never know what they've gone through, because even if you start talking about it, they won't talk. And then you start realizing that there's kind of like family rifts that's stemming from back in Jamaica or what have you. And you see that a lot in our community.
Yeah. And a lot of trauma as well. I think a lot of our parents and grandparents, they've been through traumatic things, whether it's like domestic abuse and things like that. But yeah, I think a lot of our generation, they went through trauma, and because of that, you know, they raised children that didn't really get to have those open and honest conversations. Like now, I think it's more encouraged. You know, you sit down with your kids and you talk about, you know, how are you? Like, how's it going? And you're kind of looking out for certain things. But I think back then, it wasn't really, no one was looking for that. Everyone was just kind of doing what they're doing. No one was really checking in on people properly, I don't think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's more so important now, as you were saying, talking to the kids and checking in with them, because at school, there's loads of things going on at school. You've got the social media. I think it's very important for our kids to be able to come and speak to us as well, and not feel afraid of like saying things, which I guess our parents and the older generations probably didn't have that.
Yeah. So then they wouldn't have known to ask us, if you get what I mean. So they wouldn't have known to, oh, let me see how they're doing. So then growing up, I guess we just kind of got left to it. But now we're seeing things, we're noticing, like I'll sit down with my kids and be like, you know, like I'll try and see how they are and just do a bit more digging, and, you know, even just sit down and say, oh, is there anything you think mommy could do different, or, you know, like things like that. I think it's good to take accountability as a parent as well, which I think probably us and our parents didn't experience. You know, we'll probably get a beating, and then, you know, mom isn't going to sit down and say, oh, you know what, I'm sorry I did that. You know, they just go on about their business. We never had those conversations. But now I guess, we just have to encourage them to open up, and it's okay to talk about things and be honest, because no one's perfect at the end of the day. Yeah.
And things like trauma, because you mentioned trauma, right? And we was talking to ex-army vet, and he was talking about PTSD, right? And how he suffered from it. What interests me, number one, is when he went to get help, he struggled to get help because it was from a non-military service. So, so they've set up something now which is a bridge between the military and like mind and other services. But when he was talking about that, it made me think about, because he saw some things that you can only imagine in your dreams out at war. But then it made me think about our community, right? And some of the shootings and stabbings. And, you know, my heart goes out to everyone that's involved in that, the victims, but also the perpetrators as well. Because if you think about it, not even just them, but their friends, they've probably lost someone to a gun crime or knife crime. That PTSD must be rife in our community. And I can imagine that there's a lot of people undiagnosed running around. Is, you know, in your work, right, do you see anything like that, like anyone that's probably diagnosed with PTSD, or, you know, what are kind of like some of the mental health disorders that you manage as part of your working day?
PTSD, I haven't had a lot of experience with PTSD, but I know there are like trauma focused therapies to support people with that. I'd say the most common I've seen is probably schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, anxiety, learning disabilities. But I say schizophrenia is I wouldn't say my favourite, but I enjoy probably engaging with people who have schizophrenia and treating them the most, because I find it fascinating just how the brain works and how people can have hallucinations, and like you could be sitting with someone and they can see things around you. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And is there kind of like trigger points, or say for instance, if you're talking to someone, do you identify that they're going to have an episode, or does it just clap, you snip your finger and they're gone into this episode?
Sometimes you can notice it. Sometimes it's unpredictable. Sometimes people's behaviours start to change. Like you see, maybe they're getting a bit more anxious, or they're isolating themselves a bit more. And then you can kind of think, okay, something's going on here. Or it could just happen just like that.
Yeah.
You never know. And everyone's different as well.
Yeah. Do you find it hard in your workplace as a female, like working in that environment? Is it challenging?
Strangely enough, you get used to it. I think the first time I started, it was a bit scary.
Yeah.
I worked on a female ward for about 5 years. And funnily enough, the female ward is a lot more dangerous than when I've worked with men.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't think you'd say
you
that.
find in mental health, a lot of people, they prefer to work with men than with women.
Is that the male and female like service users, they prefer to work with men?
No, like people who work in mental health, like they
Oh.
prefer to work with male patients and female patients because they're just so unpredictable.
Oh, okay.
And I think I know people say, oh yeah, women are crazy. And I think genuinely we are a bit unhinged because I listen a lot of crazy stuff when I worked with the women, whereas the men,
Yeah.
they might have the odd violent episode, but they're a lot more manageable.
Okay.
But yeah, with the women, it's harder to work with the women, I think, because women, I don't really want to compare, but I think women go through a bit more, you know, because they're moms and
Yeah.
there's a lot of hormones going on and everything. But yeah, you just see a lot more working with women than with men. Yeah.
But is there more support in place? Like, do the professionals understand that and ensure that there's support in place for them? Because having said that, I've never thought of that, but listening to you, I can see probably it could be challenging, as you said, with, you know, the different hormones and that.
Yeah.
But is the things in place?
I think the healthcare system as a whole, in my opinion, isn't great anyway. I think it could be better, especially in the NHS. I think from my perspective, I think a lot of it is just medication driven.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of doctors and psychologists that come out, you know, they sit and try and do these little therapies. And not a lot of people want to engage in certain therapies, which is fine, but it's like, okay, we'll try this medication.
Yeah.
Then they see if it works. If it does work, okay, let's increase it. Or, okay, they've had a funny turn. Okay, let's try different medication. So it's like medication. Okay, they're okay in this medication. Let's let them go. That's kind of what I see. And it's kind of sad, really. I feel like a lot of mental health problems could be solved by having a more, can't think of a word for it, but a more natural approach. Like, because like when you go into mental health hospitals, and even down to like the food that's provided, it's like school food.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what's on the menu? It's chips and pie, or it's fish and chips, or, you know, just like rubbish food. Like we're feeding them rubbish food, giving them medication. Like they're not going out enough. They're not, you know, doing more things to connect with themselves. It's just medication and rubbish food, and speaking to professionals that they can't really relate to. Like you'll have like, I don't know, a young person, they're probably like in their 20s, and then they come in and they expect to sit down with a doctor who's probably in their 60s, well-spoken, suited and booted. How is that person going to open up to that person? Like, it's not relatable. It's just, I think more could be done anyway. Yeah.
Do they have like, because on your page, because you go to the gym a lot, right? You speak about going for walks, right, in nature, and you know, just that free space to think. Do they have that in some of these mental health wards where they've got a gym? Because do you know what? The gym does trigger off those endorphins, those feel-good endorphins. But do they have that in there where they'll probably have, instead of, probably not replacing medication, but in addition to medication, some of that holistic kind of therapy where you would...
Some places do have gyms, which is good. But then you find only some people will engage with that. And sometimes you're allowed to go out for walks and, you know, do certain activities. But I just feel like it could be, you know. You know, in my head, I just feel like if you took a lot of mentally unwell people and just went on some retreat to the top of the mountains or something and just spent some time in nature, just eating natural things, surrounded by all natural elements, I think that is the way. That is the way forward. I know it's not realistic.
Yeah.
But instead of just being cooped up in a hospital, surrounded by other mentally ill people, eating rubbish food, being shoved medication down your throat, I just don't feel like it's the way forward. But that's the system for you. I think obviously the medication companies there, they have a lot of power in society and they are the companies that make the most money. And unfortunately, I just think it's all just money making, I think, anyway. And
that's the harsh side of it that a lot of people outside of the profession won't see. They won't see that side, right? Because you are right, is where there's the element of the medication and the finances that comes with it, but also resources, because to take a group of people out on a retreat, and this is where, you know, organizations like voluntary organizations come into place. But again, the downfall of that is funding for some of these voluntary organizations. A lot of people will do it out of their goodwill, but how long can you know, survive on people's goodwill?
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to tap in before we move on is, what part does the families play in this as well? So somebody that's in these wards, do they get, you know, do you see that their families are involved? And because that plays a part on your mental health as well, if you got your family involved.
I think some of the time you do. I'd probably say it's probably less than half the time that you see. Some people have some really good families who are involved and they come and see them and they're very involved with their care. But you see a lot of people, they don't really have family visits, or they don't really speak to their family, or the families just leave them to it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, more often than not, that is the case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we start winding up, right? Because you know what I want to do, right, is I want to start going on now your journey that you're on now.
Yeah.
Because I see that you're building a platform, right, that's really focused on well-being.
Yeah.
You put out a lot of those motivational quotes. You have some sayings as well. People see you in the gym working.
Yeah.
What is the next stage is looking for you? What is it that you're trying to achieve?
I'm trying to achieve. Where would I start? I guess just encouraging people to have a more positive mindset and to know the power that they have to overcome situations, regardless of what we've been through. I feel like creating a mindset that can, you know, overcome whatever you've been through, and, you know, being kind to yourself, looking after yourself and being aware of things that you, like you said, your mental diet and the things that you feed yourself physically. And also just to have, like you said, like more open and honest conversations. And it's okay to say if you're not okay. But also just being grateful, encouraging people to be grateful for the life that we have. And even if we do have bad experiences in life, I think everything happens for a reason. It's just whether you're going to stay stuck with that situation or you're going to use it to move on and do something great.
Yeah.
Also just spreading more mental health education and awareness. I'm starting some work in September in schools, which is going to be great. Because I think getting in touch with like the younger community is important, especially in this day and age. Like I said, social media is a big thing. It's a huge distraction for young people, even just down to the games, YouTube. A lot of kids just spend their time on the internet and not really getting in touch with themselves. So making them aware as well. But yeah, lots of things.
Yeah. And you talked about being kind to yourself. But do you know what, right? Because while you were saying that, I thought about like even relationships, right? And sometimes when you're in relationships, number one, it's hard to think about yourself sometimes, right? And be kind to yourself. But going back to what we said earlier on around those open conversations, right? I think sometimes that's difficult, right? And there's people, again, that rives on people's mental health and how you feel about yourself. Because, you know, if you don't have that little, even if it's, I don't know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes for yourself, right? It's hard. It is difficult to maintain that like mental well-being. It's just like at work, and you have to have a work-life balance.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you, right, let me ask you this. What would be, right, your 3 daily tips, right, to improve your mindset? What would you advise people, 3 kind of like daily tips?
Exercise. I know I think exercise is a big thing because a lot of people, they find it hard to get the motivation to exercise. But I feel like literally if I didn't have the gym, I feel like my mood wouldn't be as great as it is. Like sometimes if I don't go to the gym for a few days, I don't start feeling as good as I should do. Even if your goal isn't to tone up or lose weight, even if you just go in the gym, like spend some time moving your body, like you'll leave feeling great. Or even if you just do a little workout at home, a little YouTube video exercise, get your blood flow going. So exercise. Number 2 is spend some time just being grateful. Even if it's just like a minute, just think about the things around you that you're grateful for. Even if it's, you know, I'm grateful for the car that I have, the house that I have, the dinner that I had yesterday, you know, the family that I have around me, the job that I have. Even if you don't like the job, just be grateful that you've got a job. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people don't have jobs. Be grateful for just the little things. Be grateful for the air that you breathe. Be grateful, you know, some people can't walk. They don't have hands. They're blind. They're deaf. You know, be grateful that you can see, that you can hear. Just be grateful for the little things. And number 3, what can I pick as the last one? I'm going to say eat well. No, I'm not saying I'm a perfect eater because I love my food, but I think people need to be mindful of things that they eat as well. Like having more natural things in your diet. Not eat, even just like things like not eating late. I think your physical diet is important, not just eating too much processed foods and rubbish is important. Gotta feed your body some good stuff.
I think, do you know what then? If anything, I'm going to leave with tip number 2 and number 3, because I do often find myself not being grateful, right? And I haven't got really much to, we all worry about things, but sometimes, right, when I stop myself, what is it that I'm really worried about? Because I can literally kind of do what I want to do, really. So there isn't, and as you just said, you know, when you was talking, it struck a chord because you're saying that there's people in different situations that can't do the things that we do. So I'm going to leave with that, right? Definitely. And the eating part as well. I think I do eat clean as much as I can, but I'm going to definitely task myself with eating clean a little bit more throughout the week. So I'll take those 2 advices from you. But also as well, because you're quite knowledgeable with all these, you know, affirmations and stuff that you do. But in fact, before we go into this, right, because you spoke about the gym. What was it like for you first going in the gym? Because there may be people listening, right, that, especially females, that want to go into the gym. But, you know, if you're going in there by yourself, there's always that fear of, you know, about your own body and so forth. And you may not have a friend that you can go to the gym with.
Yeah.
So what was the first time stepping into the gym for you? And what advice would you give to people listening that want to go to the gym but haven't took that first step?
Well, I was a person that I never ever thought I would go to the gym. I used to be like, oh, I'm not going to the gym. Why am I going to the gym? I don't like exercise. I don't like sweating. So the first time I properly went to the gym, I think it was 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what I was doing. I just thought I'll just go for the treadmill. So every time I went in, I was just on the treadmill, and then I just ended up losing loads of weight because I was kind of like, I don't really know what the machines are for. I don't know what's going on. So I just kind of eased myself into it, and then I'd kind of go from the treadmill. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try this out. Then I was on the leg press, and then I just started exploring a bit more. But I think going into the gym, what you have to think about is why you're doing it. Like, you're doing it for you. A lot of people in the gym, they don't care. No one's watching you in the gym. Like, when you go into the gym, everyone's focused on whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, no one goes into the gym and starts judging people because everyone's literally going in there and they're focused on themselves. I think that's one thing I love about the gym is just everyone's in there for themselves.
Yeah.
So just remember why you're doing it. You're doing it for you. You're not doing it because of, you know, don't worry about what you look like because no one's really watching you. So just go, even if you just try out one machine, just ease yourself into it. And yeah, it took me a while to kind of get used to it, but as soon as you start, just stay consistent with it.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to do this little plug as well because there's two fitness people that I go to and attend. Twin Sane Fitness. So anyone that's listening, if you're on a fitness journey and you're fearful of going into the gym, go and check out Twin Sane Fitness. They're on Instagram anyway. And also Ace Fitness. They're two community of people that they embrace anyone, right? So it's good. If you're looking to go onto that fitness journey, go and check them two people out and you'll be embraced. Doesn't matter what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, they'll sort you out. But also I want to ask you, right, before you leave, two things really, right? What book are you reading or what is your thing that you're going to get your knowledge that you can share with people out there?
Trying to think of one thing in particular. There's one book by Tony Robbins which I absolutely love. It's called Unlimited Power. And basically, I think that book helped me a little bit. It's all about the mindset.
Yeah.
And how in certain situations, if you change your mindset, you can get the outcome that you want. And just being in a resourceful mindset at all times. That one helped me a bit. But also, there's one person who I listen to a lot who's called Joe Dispenza. He's on YouTube and he has podcasts and stuff. He talks a lot about the mindset and also like the science behind it and everything. But yeah, I'd encourage people to just watch and listen to more positive things that are going to benefit them.
Cool. And the last question, we always ask, right? Most of our guests, this question here, right? There's a book on the table as well, right? Where someone wrote, and this is where we got the question from because she wrote a book speaking to her younger self. I'll show it you at the end. But knowing everything that you know now, right? The journey that you've been through. If you could go back and speak to your younger self. So I know that you said that you written notes and so forth. But if you could sit by your younger self and give them advice, what would you say to your younger self now?
I would say that you are worth a lot more than you think you are. And be brave and be confident. There's nothing to worry about. And surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you and love you how you should be loved and appreciate you. And you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you know what, Ebony? Thanks for coming up and entertaining us. I mean, next year when it's Mental Health Awareness Week, we're gonna call back for you and have a discussion.
Yeah.
But if people wanted to get in touch with you, right, how can they reach out to you?
Okay, I'll probably say my Instagram. So my Instagram is _Belle-Being _ and my email address is ebony@bellebeing.com.
Thank you. Ebony, thanks for coming up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.